It's all based on the same fundamental principles. Like, I operate under this health model that basically says, like, if you remove the interferences to the body being healthy, which is like, a lot of times that's the food that we're eating, well, then the body just, its natural state is health, and it'll begin to heal itself. And I experienced that firsthand, like very, very profoundly when I did this. I was like, wow, my body healed itself, and literally the only thing I did was just ate better. And all these problems I've been complaining about for a while just kind of disappeared.
The first and best victory is to conquer self. Welcome to the Conqueror Approach, a journey of self-mastery to cultivate our faith, mindset, wellness, and to allow our light to shine upon the world. Brought to you by me, your host, faithful believer, U.S. Navy submarine veteran and coach, Musa Mikhail. Let's conquer. Welcome back to the Conqueror Approach. I appreciate you for tuning in. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Dr. Benjamin Benulis. He's a chiropractor and author of Create Health, Reverse Autoimmune Disease Without Drugs or Side Effects. He has an incredible story about reversing autoimmune disease that is really going to blow your mind, and he helps countless others do the same. Autoimmune disease is one of those things Dr. Ben's going to be talking a lot more about, but it's one of those things medicine does not really have a strong solution for, and it extremely hinders someone's ability to live and function. A lot of chronic symptoms and pain, and many people who suffer from these miserable side effects even commit suicide. So, Dr. Benjamin, thank you so much for joining me on the Conqueror Approach.
Hey, happy to be here, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, man. So let's talk a little bit about autoimmune disease, man. Because first of all, I don't have a strong understanding. I know a lot of it is really painful, and I know it's miserable for a lot of people. But could you tell us a little bit about what autoimmune disease is for those who might not deal with it or know anyone that deals with it?
Sure. So autoimmune is, of course, the Latin or Greek derivation is auto meaning self, and immune being the system that's supposed to fight disease. And so in this situation, the immune system ends up attacking the self instead of the pathogens. Now, some people will say, like, okay, this doesn't exist. That's not what's really going on. But it's at some level, that's the understanding. And so what happens is this manifests in different ways because it depends on the part of the body that ends up getting attacked. Okay, so if the immune system attacks the joints, that's something like rheumatoid arthritis. If the immune system attacks the thyroid, they might call that Hashimoto's disease. If it attacks the brain, they'll call it, MS, multiple sclerosis. If it attacks the digestive system, it's ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. So it's a similar phenomenon, but just happening in different parts of the body. And so they give each disease process a different name, but really it's the same underlying root cause.
Wow. So you dealt with autoimmune disease. Could you talk a little bit about your experience with it, and then a little bit about your story, man, how you reversed it and now you're like this healthy stud doctor that's just changing lives out here?
Sure, man. So basically, I was working an entirely different career. I was working as an engineer in the microchip industry for pretty much all my 20s. And in the late 20s, started coming down with just symptoms that couldn't really be pinned to anything in particular. Really bad chronic fatigue, was just kind of living off of energy drinks. Really bad chronic muscle pain, really bad eczema and skin issues, and really bad digestive issues, to the point where I was like, just was dealing with that 24/7 essentially. And so, like you talked about, hey, the medical solution isn't the best. Well, that's kind of the route I approached first, thinking like, okay, I'm going to show up with, conditions A, B, C, and D, and they're going to prescribe me medicines X, Y, and Z, and then everything's fixed. And so I went in there thinking that that's how it would go down, and learned pretty quickly over the course of a few months, it didn't quite work that way. It was like, well, you got a skin condition, we got to send you to the dermatologist. You got a, stomach condition, we got to send you to the gastroenterologist. And so one doctor's visit balloons into 4 or 5. And then each one of these guys is like running their own tests, trying to figure it out, referring me, and I'm getting passed around. And it becomes like this medical mystery that no one really is putting forth the effort to really try to solve. It's just like, oh, let's pass you to the next guy. And I had health insurance at the time. So it was like, okay, this sucks, but my insurance paying for it, so I guess I got to go do this, go do that. And pretty soon after just kind of going through this like, wagon wheel, hamster wheel of like getting passed around and everyone going scratching their heads like, yeah, we ran the thyroid panel and everything looks normal. We ran your blood work, it all looks normal. And we did this test and that test and like it all looks normal. Like I got pretty disillusioned with things, right? Like I was just sort of like, this process is not working. No one's even able to diagnose me with anything, much less offer me any kind of solution. Like people aren't really even taking me seriously. And so I was just sort of like, okay, at some point, like I got to figure this out on my own. I got to start doing my own research because obviously this is going to take them a while to figure it out. And so that's when I started, reading books, reading any information I could get my hands on, journal articles, watching videos on YouTube, just kind of delving in. And I remember coming across information that said like, well, if you change your diet, a lot of these problems go away. And about not doing that, like that's like a last resort and whatever. But as time went on and I was, continuing to get no answers, continuing to get worse, honestly, to the point where it was like really interfering with, my social life, even my job, my relationships. It was just like, okay, I got to change something because if I don't, nothing's going to change here. And so that's when I started diving into the diet aspect of it and kind of figuring that route out. And so that was a journey, a process on its own. And somewhere along the lines, I just kind of gave up with I was sick of like being passed around to doctors and having them, look at everything and go, oh, can't figure out what's wrong with you. It's like, okay, I guess you're telling me that you can't figure it out. So it's, I don't know why I'm here. But within, like, kind of messed around with like changing my diet for a while, wasn't too serious about it in the beginning, but like as I got worse, I was like, okay, something's got to give here because this is looking bad. And when I really got the diet dialed in, doing things like gigantic, green smoothies here, we got blueberry, banana, green leaf lettuce in this one. That's when things really started to shift. And that's when things like I really started to notice a change. I would say within like 2 months of doing that, like pretty much all my symptoms subsided, magically just kind of disappeared. And I just witnessed my body heal itself. And that's when I was like, wow, okay, I'm onto something. I guess doing this was better than, 6 months of doctor's visits getting me nowhere. Like there's something going on here. So that was kind of my initial foray into it all. It just kind of backdoored, just trying to find a solution. Just I was willing to do whatever worked. I didn't really care, whether it was a mainstream medical thing or an alternative thing or anything. I was just like, I was feeling bad and I wanted to get better.
Yeah. It's interesting how the medical industry just passes you around when they're trying to identify symptoms, and then when the symptoms don't match the mechanics or the numbers or the science of it, there's no real solution for it. So it's just like passing you on from on and on. And then if they do find, oh, you have these symptoms, did they just give you a lot of like different types of drugs to see if they worked, and then like side effects, and then try to treat the side effects with more things? Like, how was that journey?
Thankfully I didn't have to deal with that. I did get prescribed things, but I was always like, so wait, you really can't even figure out what's wrong, but you're just to throw this at me and I'm supposed to do it and see if it works. Like I was not opposed to that. I wanted clarity and certainty, but I never got it. And so that really bothered me. But a lot of people are just throwing, oh, we'll just put you on this drug, and people take it and really have no sense of what it really entails.
Yeah, try to see what happens.
Yeah, I was always like, okay, if you tell me that like I definitely have condition A and you're going to give me drug B, like I'm game. But I just it was always like felt like they were just kind of, you know, shooting out off the hip and like kind of making it up as they went along, and I just didn't trust that. So yeah.
How drastic was like your diet change? Like, what was it like before? Because I know now you pound an insane amount of fruits and smoothies and things like that, which we could talk a little bit more about, like your method of really getting results and reversing some of these symptoms that people face. But like, what was it like before you started making the shift?
I was on a pretty like standard American diet. Like I was never overweight. and I always just really ate a lot of just processed foods. It's kind of lived off like pizza, Chinese food, Mountain Dew, like Taco Cabana. That was a thing when I lived in Austin. So yeah, a lot of just, and like, if I was making my own food, it was usually in a microwave. And so I remember people telling me like, "Hey, if you keep eating this way, it's going to catch up to you." And I thought, I don't think so. I made it to, my late 20s with not getting fat, so I must just have good genes. And the kind of the ironic thing is that it did catch up to me, just not in the way that like anybody kind of anticipated. And so yeah, I mean that it was definitely like not the healthiest of diets. I mean, I wasn't overweight or anything. I was somewhat fit, but it was not,
Mhm.
anything that anybody would say, "Oh, that's a healthy diet."
Well, what is it? What is it now? Give us the insight for people who haven't followed you on social media or don't follow you yet. What is the type of diet that really gets true results in dealing with this type of issue?
Sure. And I should come up with some kind of name for it, but I guess there's a bunch of them. But it's really like a very high raw plant-based diet using fruit as a staple. So I primarily eat fruit for meals and as get most of my calories from fresh fruit in season,
Mm.
preferably organic, ripe fruit. And so what that looks like is typically for breakfast this morning. Well, I live in Arizona where there's a lot of citrus. I've been picking a lot of that myself because it's really high quality to get it like local, organic, free, all
Mhm.
that. So I had like a half gallon of grapefruit juice of grapefruits that I juiced myself and picked myself. Um, Having a really late lunch here because the day got away from me, but this is about a half gallon of banana smoothie. So we got about 10 bananas, maybe like some blueberries, some frozen blueberries, some frozen strawberries, half a head of organic lettuce and some water blended. And then for dinner, I'll usually do a big salad with at least a whole head of organic greens and some veggies. Make a homemade salad dressing out of like fruits and vegetables. Like I might do like avocado, tomato, and orange or something like that. Pour that over greens. So just like a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. Like what I'm saying. Like I'm drinking a half gallon of smoothie. If you're listening to the audio, that's a lot. That's like bigger than
It's a
my
huge
head.
blender, yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible, man. Did you start out like easy or did you just decide I'm gonna intake as much possible plants
Sure.
fruit as possible
In the
to get
beginning, I was just kind of like dabbling, and I noticed the difference with when I ate this way versus I didn't, and I thought, but I hit a breaking point, where it was just like I was out with some buddies, and I ended up like drinking a few beers, and then like kind of rationalize that, and no, I'm out with my friends. I'm just gonna have a few slices of pizza, and just like all of that just kind of like really spiraled into me just feeling awful, like puking my guts out, just like feeling horrible, and like waking up the next day and being like, man, I can't keep bouncing back between these two worlds. Like I gotta get this dialed in, or I'm just gonna continue to just be on the hamster wheel. So that was kind of a wake up call for me, and that's when I really got it dialed in. And I would say, yeah, within 2 months of that, so like a massive transformation in my body, and so yeah, so there was a period of like, I'm kind of gonna do this. I think this is a good idea, but I'm not too serious about it. To like life just kind of whacked me with a 2x4, and I was like, okay, it's time to get serious.
man, you're like how many bananas do you consume in a day? I'm just curious.
Usually around 10. Yeah, I'll do a smoothie with
Yeah.
about 8 to 12 of them in it pretty much every day. Yeah.
There. That's pretty
So
impressive.
bananas are in season all year round, and they're really affordable, and they're pretty calorically dense compared to other fruits, so they make a good staple.
Mhm. What is because that some people might be me thinking of this or hearing you or watching you and like think that's ridiculous. But for those that have real health issues and the drugs and the whatever surgeries, whatever the medicine is offering you isn't. how do you explain to people the benefit of how you feel now and how your feeling, your symptoms, your health is now in comparison to those who think it's too difficult to change their mindset and how they pursue food or how they see food and consuming more plants in generally.
I mean, my life is completely transformed. Not everybody's ready to change. I think that's one thing that I've really had to grapple with in trying to help people is that some people you just can't want more than they do, right? So it's like I feel fantastic. And it's like, okay, this is okay. I'm drinking a smoothie with 10 bananas in it, but like getting your whole colon cut out because you have ulcerative colitis, like that's pooping into a bag for the rest of your life. Like that's drastic too. But choose your drastic. Like if it's between drinking one of these every day and doing that, I mean, like it should be a no-brainer, you know?
Yeah.
But so I would say like, to me, like I've been doing it so long, it's just like it's habit, right? But any diet they've been doing for more than 2 years is pretty much habit at that point. So it's like you got to go through a period of transition where you're willing to make a change. But like if you could do it and it was not that big of a hassle and you enjoyed eating it and it tasted great, like how hard is that? It's not really that hard. I think people just their fear of change is high, right? And so there's a thing called Tony Robbins calls emotional leverage, right? It's like when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. And when I'm like riding home on my bike drunk after just eating like half a pizza, feeling like my stomach's gonna explode and like puking in the bushes, I kind of hit that point of like, man, this is really painful to not change, to keep doing this and keep living this way. Like I literally cannot go on. I cannot experience this again. I don't want that. And that was like a light switch flip for me. But some people have to go through that. Things have to get pretty bad before they're willing to change, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, but it's like any habit, once you work at it to develop the skill set, it's a habit and it's actually pretty easy to do.
Yeah, man. Some people have to hit a point where change is the only option. And it's sad. It's sad that we can't just learn from other people's mistakes. We have to wait till something really bad happens or we get some type of diagnosis or we just feel like absolute garbage and we can't function. And it's that thing that we don't even realize how good we could potentially feel, like what's possible. Like when we do start eating right, the energy levels that change, that we don't have to function in dysfunction and think that our normal was normal, because most of what's normal in this day and age is just, it's not normal. Like it's not normal to be extremely drained and obese and sick, right? But
But it
it's
is
like
common. It's very
it is
common.
common. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is becoming normal in this society, and I think especially in America versus a lot of other places. What is one of the biggest mistakes you see people doing when it comes to taking care of themselves?
Um, that's a good question. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they put all their faith in some kind of like guru or some kind of one thing and
Mhm.
assume that like, okay, as long as I do exactly what this person says, I don't need to critically think anymore. Or as long as I take this one, supplement or whatever, that's going to change everything. And they have this mentality of like giving their power away and just sort of like following blindly sort of one specific ideology. I find that a lot of those people that like that's really ends up backfiring a lot of the time.
Yeah, because it's a holistic thing. It's not just one. There's no one fix all. I mean, maybe the diet that's going to fix a lot of the things, but
Yeah,
before diet can change, like your mind has to change and your mental state has to be in the right place for you to build new habits. You know,
totally.
so it's like what you help a lot of people with these types of issues, and you're a chiropractor. What is like the first thing you teach people when it comes to just becoming better overall with their wellness?
Um, I mean, most of the time I like I don't have people coming to me being like, I'm healthy, I have no real problems. I just want to like be better. Like that's a conversation I rarely have. So most of the time people are coming to me with some kind of chronic illness. It's getting the diet dialed in. It's just figuring out a way to get more fruits and vegetables in their system, even if it's just drinking one smoothie a day. So that's really the first thing that I focus on. I think that's ultimately like excuse the pun, but the low hanging fruit, like the thing that, you're going to get the most mileage out of for, putting effort towards.
Which I like that about you because you're a chiropractor. You're not just cracking backs or whatever. You're teaching people how to live like a healthy life, and the diet's such an important part and role in doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all based on same fundamental principles. Like I operate under this health model that basically says like if you remove the interferences to the body being healthy, which is like, a lot of times that's the food that we're eating. Well, then the body just its natural state is health, and it'll begin to heal itself. And I experienced that firsthand, like very, very profoundly when I did this. I was like, wow, my body healed itself, and literally the only thing I did was just ate better. And all these problems I've been complaining about for a while just kind of disappeared. And so chiropractic's based on a similar fundamental principle. It's like we remove the interference to the nervous system, and then the body is allowed to function optimally, heal itself. So I'm really a big believer that like, the body has an innate ability to self-regulate and ultimately self-heal. And our job is just to remove any and all obstructions to that self-regulation, to that self-healing.
Mm. That's super powerful because that changes perspective on things. It's not just let me get somebody to tell me exactly what to do and fix all my problems. It again empowers us to what is the interference, creating awareness on those areas in our life that is interfering, that is inhibiting us from healing and letting our body do what it's designed to do. Because the body is miraculous. It does incredible things when we allow it. I think that's the big problem is we don't give it that chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people they're looking for a magic genie, right? It's like, oh, I just got to wear a rag over my face and I won't get the disease that's going around. Oh, okay. You know? So like we're pro and like it's easy to have a pharmaceutical commercial where it's like, just take this drug and like you'll be fine, right? And so but then it's like, but then we'll list off all the side effects, right? Like versus like, you could take better care of yourself, but that requires work versus like you just take this pill, right? Which, hey, I mean, if that approach worked, probably would be needing to do this because I would have just taken a pill way back when and just kept along living my life.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's powerful. It's definitely empowering. But with great power comes great responsibility because it's like, okay, your body has the power to heal, but you got to take the responsibility to, actually disobstruct that power. And that's a tall order for a lot of people. In fact, I had a client today that I was on a phone call with that was like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And then I'm ready to heal myself and blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, I'm ready to go shopping. And then calls me like 3 hours later, like, this just seems like it's going to be really hard. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, this person is literally having like, excuse my language, but like multiple bloody bowel movements a day. It's like, okay, wait. Like changing your diet's hard, but you're going to continue to just like
Mm-hmm.
do this. But that's the dance. Unfortunately, not everybody's ready to play ball. I mean, I think it's like there's a higher perceived difficulty than actual difficulty. But it's a totally different paradigm. And part of the problem is that medicine peddles this fixed paradigm that something's wrong with you and you have no power and you need to come to us for us to fix it and make you okay. And unfortunately, the human body you're not a car. It just doesn't work that way. It's like you have the power, but that's also going to require, responsibility on your part. And so I'm trying to get the word out there, It's like doing podcasts like this is good to get the message out to people that like, hey, your body has the ability to heal itself to the degree that you provide the conditions to do so. So
Give it the
Choice is yours.
opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you and the work you do and spreading these words and uh, these these podcasts and these stories because it gives people hope. You know, because some people who've dealt with diseases that are chronic, you know, the medicine like you dealt with, like we don't know what's wrong with you and we have no solution for you. So like here you can keep trying these drugs until something works, or I'm sorry, but that is like a hopeless situation. But when we learn from people like you who've had results, who've reversed these issues, that it could be as cheap as the produce aisle, 10 bananas,
Yeah.
or what, it might not be as many because honestly, I get full after like 2 bananas. I'm pretty impressed that you can consume that much, but that's a
When
lot
it's in
cheaper.
liquid form, it's a little bit different. And when they're really
Yeah.
ripe, it hits a little different.
Yeah. You know what's really good? The ice cream people make with frozen bananas and a little like
Oh yeah.
cacao. Beautiful. You eat like as much as you want and not feel terrible.
Yeah. What's funny is I remember like making it for a buddy of mine, and he's like, "Wait, all it's in it is like bananas, blueberry, and pineapple." Like I'm tasting it, and it's like you gotta be adding something else in here. Like you're lying to me. It can't just be fruit. It's like, no, dude, that's literally what's in it.
Yeah, and it's just mind-boggling that fruit, the antioxidants in blueberries, and the nutrients, the most nutrient-dense food is fruits and vegetables, and we eat that the least in the American standard diet. It seems
Yep.
like, so it's like all those things are the building blocks of our human body. It creates our cells and it nourishes our body, but we avoid it for convenience, and then we ignore the alarms in our body, the inflammation, the pain, the gut issues, the inflammation, the skin issues, all are pointing toward the direction that we need to correct something. And it might be as
That's
simple as
legit. Yeah.
drinking some smoothies, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your favorite go-to smoothie or
My
meal.
favorite go-to is probably what I'm drinking right now. It's like bananas, blueberries, strawberries, greens. Like you get all four primary colors, man. It's like red, blue, yellow, and green, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
I love it, man.
it's funny, it was I was in Costa Rica last month, and that was great for lifestyle I live, because I was just getting like all this amazing fruit out there. But when I got home, I kind of had to I had to like, you know, pick up some fruit and let things ripen for a few days before I could drink my banana smoothies again. And so I was just living off like grapes and a few other things and what I could get at the store that I could eat right away. And I remember it was like finally the bananas ripened about like 3 days after I got back, and just like made that first banana smoothie that I hadn't had in a minute. And it was just like, man, how did I go for 3 days without this? Like this is amazing.
Because
So
your taste buds adjust to what you
yeah,
feed yourself,
yeah,
So people who don't think salad tastes good, it's because their taste buds are just conformed to salt, fat, and grease, and all the
fine
processed
sugar. Yeah,
chemicals,
yeah.
sugars, all those things. So if you allow your body to adjust, these things start tasting great, man. And dude, I love it. I love that it could be simple, the simple solution potentially to
Yeah, people
heal.
want complicated. They want, it's
Yeah.
something that's, it's going to suppress my immune system and you're going to inject it into me every 2 months. Like,
Right.
that
Yeah.
sounds cool. Okay.
Some
And then
blood
my immune system will
transfusion.
stop attacking the joints, and it'll stop doing a few other things too. But this sounds worth it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure people are gonna like see the headline of this podcast and think it's some crazy secretive solution, but it's really just go buy some fruit and make some smoothies.
Yeah. And do it to the exclusion of other foods on a
Yeah.
consistent basis.
And that's the
Um,
thing, like when you start consuming more of the good things, you're not gonna want to eat as much as the bad things. Like after that smoothie, you're probably not gonna want to eat anything else, right? So by consuming more of the good, that ultimately makes you consume less of the bad.
Totally. It's a crowd out thing. And, I have people who do my program and they're like a month or two in, they're like, Dr. Ben, I had some, like whatever it is, like ice cream, pizza, fried chicken, whatever. And they're like, I had a few bites and I couldn't eat anymore. Like it was my system just hated it. Like it tasted revolting to me. Like what happened, you know? And it's just like your taste buds just reacclimate. And like you were saying, like, you know, to somebody who like salad doesn't taste good to, it's because they've been eating, you know, standard American diet full of refined foods, processed sugar, processed oils, heavy sodium, salt. So they're used to like heavily seasoned foods. Well, much in the same way, your body can acclimate to this, and then when you go try to put that stuff in your mouth, you're like, oh, what is this?
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
That's the miracle of the body, man, when we give it that opportunity. And I know you have a lot of resources, your book and other things you offer. What kind of resources do you offer if somebody wants to get to speak to you more, or do your program, or just do some work with you and get some help?
Sure. So best thing to do would just be set up like I do a free like 10-minute discovery call if you're looking to get more help, and just set up a time with me. You can just message me on any of the platforms, you know, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and just say, you know, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Can we chat? And we'll set something up and see what would be good for you.
Awesome. I'll have all those linked into the show notes. Dr. Ben, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your wisdom and your simple solution to getting a better life.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. That is all for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you found any value in this episode, someone you know will also. Please share, subscribe, leave a rating and review so we can reach more people, have a farther ripple, and a larger impact. Stay grateful. I appreciate you. And remember, you are a conqueror.